How water can save the world from climate change. While we've been focusing on CO2, the real solution has been hiding in plain sight. What if the secret to mitigating climate change was already flowing all around us? It starts with understanding the most powerful force we've overlooked, the water cycle. I used to think we were doomed. Floods, droughts, fires, climate change. But then I saw the truth, that water has the ability to heal everything. That when we work with water, we can bring landscapes back to life. Imagine walking through a dead, barren landscape. Scorching heat, cracked earth, no life. Existing in that space for a moment, would you rather have less carbon in the atmosphere, or a lake to swim in and a forest shade to sit in? Now imagine that same landscape totally transformed in just a couple of years. Lush green, full of life and water. I've seen this. I've done this with my own two hands, and you can too. Nature already knows how to heal. Water wants to flow, trees want to grow, and life wants to return to the landscape. All we have to do is help. What if we could stop drought, flood, and fire? What if we could bring rains back to dry landscapes? What if we could lower local temperatures, not in decades or in centuries, but in a couple of years? With the power of water, we can do all of these things. I've seen for myself lowered temperatures, restored rains, and revived rivers. I've seen for myself landscapes that didn't burn when all of the neighbors were ashes. This was all through people working with water. I thought stopping the worst effects of climate change was all about reducing carbon and alternative energy. But I've realized that water shapes our landscape, drives our climate, and determines whether life thrives or just survives. There are two futures ahead of us. One where the rivers dry up, the land dies, and the world burns. And in the other, we bring water back, bring forests back, and heal our climate. But the best part, we get to choose. Water is the key, shaping our planet, regulating our climate, and providing the source for life. The question isn't whether we can fix it, it's whether we will. This is a story about how the power of water can change the world. Water brings life to everything that it touches. Imagine a landscape, and wherever the water is, that's where life erupts. Where water accumulates, life generates. 70% of all life is water. 70% of our planet is water. Water plays a pivotal role in all ecosystems. It's the ultimate solvent, moving nutrients and minerals around. And from the microscopic to vast ecosystems, water drives the processes unfolding within each. Water has unique properties to dissolve and transport nutrients, to regulate temperature. It really is life itself. And water is mysterious and still not fully understood. There are all sorts of anomalies in our current physiological understanding of water. Water gives us everything, and yet it's the easiest thing to take for granted. So water provides all this value in an immediate sense to life, but it also plays a pivotal role in regulating our climate. Somewhere between 2/3 and 90 or more % of the heat dynamics on Earth are regulated by water. So water creates the conditions on our planet for life to thrive. And so what happens when we work with water? Really incredible things. We see the restoration of landscapes. We see the lowering of local temperatures. We see rivers flowing perennial again that had been dry for decades. You can look to Europe and see the work of Sepp Holzer, creating these oases in a desert. You're driving through a landscape that is hot and unimaginable for life, and you arrive to these sanctuaries. What's the difference? Those sanctuaries held on to the rains. They stored them in the landscape, and they let that water cycle through ecosystems. And we've seen this in the Americas, projects where within a few short years, rare creatures are making their home. We see projects where the springs are flowing 5 to 10 times in just a few years. These are changes that you might have thought impossible, or at least would take decades, and yet they can unfold in just a few short seasons. And that's because water has this incredible healing touch. When water returns to an area, it stabilizes the temperatures, it hydrates the soil, it allows the microorganisms to grow, it allows the vegetation to grow. Then that vegetation transpires, cools the local environment, creating this feedback loop of life and productivity. Because water is Earth's blood. It needs it to move nutrients throughout the system. And water shapes our planet in a very real sense. There's nothing softer and more yielding, and yet nothing better at eroding the hard and unforgiving. And not just that, but all of these processes result in more life on the landscape, sequestering carbon from the atmosphere. And so when we put our focus on water, when we put our energy towards water, it creates these ripple effects through the ecosystems, through the living landscapes, and through our climate system as well, and the regulation of temperature and weather. And so when we focus our efforts on water, we create these ripple effects all throughout the system. We have more life, we have a nicer environment to exist in, we have cooling from the evaporation happening off the water, we have cooling from the transpiration happening from the vegetation. And so water has all these positive ripple effects, not just on the living organisms on that landscape, but also on the heat dynamics of that landscape, regulating the temperature and even helping to balance the climate and precipitation. So why is our water cycle collapsing? It's because of our management on the landscape. We've drained the wetlands, we've hardened the grounds, we've cleared the forests. What forests remain are mostly monoculture fields that don't function hydrologically anything like a true primary forest. And so we've changed this landscape. We've degraded the Earth's soil sponge, and that sponge is getting drier and drier in the process. If you look globally, we've lost 87% of the world's wetlands. And they weren't lost, they were destroyed. So we've destroyed the forests that help regulate the temperature and precipitation patterns. We've destroyed the water holding capacity of the landscape in the wetlands. We've destroyed the soils, we've hardened surfaces. And so it's a natural consequence that we'd have this very erratic, severe, and extreme water cycle, where we have huge flooding events with massive destruction, with long periods of drought in between, and then fires come and consume what remains of a once living landscape. And don't take my word for it, talk to your elders. They'll tell you the same story. Everywhere around the world, you hear these heartbreaking stories of water sources going dry, the rivers and the creeks flowing less and less, how they used to be clean, clear drinking water, and now only flow seasonally, a poor quality of water. You'll hear about these changes in the landscape just over the last 50 or 70 years, let alone the last couple of hundred. And we have a lot of practices, the drainage of ecosystems and landscapes, that used to make sense when water was abundant and precipitation was regular, but are now really just shooting ourselves in the foot. What sense does it make to drain away the water when there's excess to then just have a subsequent drought later in the year? At the times the precipitation patterns were regular and water was at surplus within the landscape, draining some water away ended up yielding positive results for that farmer. But done again and again, time after time, over hundreds and in some cases thousands of years, that starts to have really catastrophic consequences. And so now we're still existing, still having these systems on the landscape, still building these systems on the landscape that no longer serve us. And so what's the natural consequence of pushing all of that water away? You're creating a flood for someone downstream. Not just that, you're now going to run out of water in the dry season, ending up with a landscape that's less full of life and less able to absorb the rains when they do come. This is another feedback loop that gets worse and worse over time and that we quickly want to avoid. And unlike a forest, when a wetland is drained, it doesn't recover on its own. It needs our input to remove that drainage to allow that landscape to restore a healthy hydrology. And water scarcity is a growing threat all around the world. If you look at the amount of conflict and consequences that are happening as a result of water scarcity, you'll get pretty depressed pretty quickly. This is something that everyone from the World Economic Forum to the UN to governments to individual people are talking about more and more every year. This is leading to scarcity of water, scarcity of clean conditions, scarcity of food, conflict, stress, war, all sorts of really consequential and catastrophic issues. And it's all preventable if only we start working with the power of water. And so this is something that every single one of us can do. Every one of us puts our feet at some point on some landscape, and we can find the simple ways to help that landscape receive the rains. The easiest way to learn this, go outside in a rainstorm. And there's a simple saying to help you remember what to do. Where water runs, make it walk. Where water walks, make it crawl. And where water crawls, help it go into the ground. And if you can do this, if you can move water slowly into and through the landscape, you'll find a total regeneration of the health and productivity of those lands. And so we don't need to wait for governments or big tech or technological advancements. We have all of the tools at our disposal right now. We, the people of this planet, can help restore and regenerate a healthy water cycle. That healthy and functioning water cycle creates a balanced and productive climate, saving the world from the worst consequences of climate change. And so what does this solution look like? Decentralized water retention, helping landscapes receive the rains that fall upon them. And so help water to infiltrate into the earth. Give it space. We've taken so much space from water in the wetlands, in the small ephemeral pools that seasonally hold water. How can we start to give space back to water for that process? Lengthen the flow. Let that water slowly move through. Where it runs, make it walk. Where it walks, make it crawl. And where it crawls, help it go into the ground. And this needs to be decentralized in order to work. These big centralized dams and reservoirs have all sorts of costs, risks, and inefficiencies throughout the process. But when we work with the landscape to hold the water throughout that landscape, that's when these positive effects really start to take hold. And therefore, we need to let nature lead. We need to work with nature, to let the vegetation grow, to understand that every plant has a valuable role, and to feed the soil so that the soil and the vegetation can help build up that soil sponge. Now, another part of this is that the forests seed rainfall. They actually produce microorganisms that create the condensation nuclei to form clouds and then rain. And so forests seed the rain, so plant the forests. This will help regulate extreme temperatures. It'll help create more consistent precipitation. And so it's very important that we protect what remains and that we establish new. And one of the easiest ways to do this is to start really adopting agroforestry, where we're producing food and crops off of forested landscapes. Another important piece is to prime the pump. These are feedback loops. We've been moving in many cases into the negative feedback loop. Over time, this becomes harder and harder to recover. But if we can start to move into the other feedback loop of hydration, it gets easier and easier with time. And so the more that we can create this small water cycle where we store the rains and let that water evapotranspirate on the landscape, the more water vapor in the atmosphere we have in turn to condense and fall upon that landscape. On average, 50% of the rainfall we receive is from water transpired and evaporated locally from within that landscape. So the more water we create, the more water creates. Life begets life, and water begets life. Those two things are interchangeable. And so the more we can trigger that small water cycle, the more we can build up and reestablish those ecosystems, it creates more and more water holding and more water production as a result. And not just that, but we have this phenomenon of the biotic pump, that in that process of going from very large to very small, that the water vapor does when it condenses, creates this vacuum-like effect that actually creates winds and movement of humidity, aerial rivers within the sky. And so we have these forests creating rain and conveying rain into these areas. And when we stack all of these things together, it starts to become easier and easier to create a better common future. And then we should really be achieving water neutrality and striving for water positive. And what this means is that we're putting more water into the ground than we're taking out. We all live in the modern world. We use roads and walkways. We many times have houses, all of these hard surfaces that force the water off of that landscape. Where can we find the ways, how can we find the ways to hold that water, to intercept it and help it return to the ground? And so we can look at the water within the earth like a bank account. If we're always taking out of the bank account and never putting anything back in, we all know how that goes. And we need to treat our groundwater in the same way, where we're always building up that reservoir, that supply of resources in the ground, so that there's always a surplus for all of life on our planet. Now, many people will try and come up with excuses and say, it's too dry here for this. This will never work this way. But in all cases, it's not about how much water you receive, but how many times you use it before it leaves. So can we increase the efficiency of that water? Can we have that water cycle through living systems many times before it moves downstream? In a really healthy ecosystem like the Amazon, water cycling 7 times through living systems into the atmosphere, condensing, raining, into the ground, pulled up by the plants, into the atmosphere, doing that whole cycling 7 times before it moves downstream in the river. And so how can we really maximize the efficiency of our water? Use it again and again to benefit the landscape everywhere it touches along the way. And in the modern age, it's also really important to consider we're losing our glaciers and we're losing our snowpack. And so as we lose these balancing systems, these big reservoirs of water, we need to be finding ways to hold the seasonal availability of water that we have in the landscape to help offset what we're losing. And so this is really the process of transforming watersheds into water catchments. So this practice of water cycle restoration provides us a clear path for a better common future. This is something that was traditional ecological knowledge in many places all around the world, to treat water with reverence and respect, and to help it meet the landscape and benefit that landscape. And we see all around the world, our water story students are taking all of these skills and abilities and applying them on their own landscape. They're already creating new springs, raising the level of the water in their wells, and creating healthy, vibrant landscapes where before it was just drying and dying. This isn't just theory, this is a movement happening right now, and you can be a part of it too. So share this message. Help people understand that we can save the world from climate change using the power of water.